Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Ability Podcast with Damo and Eddy. Thanks for listening.
Jan, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Damo.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to it, haven't we?
It's been
Yeah.
great.
It's great to be with both of you. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can start.
Sweet, man.
Yep.
Welcome to the pod. We sort of connected over, I guess, Adelaide's small circles, right? Like you knew
Yes.
Jeff Potter.
Yes,
from
Jeff's
City
been
in
wonderful.
some capacity. Yeah, and he said, I know this lovely, vibrant lady who's had challenges in life, but who's an optimist. You should have her on the show. And we spoke for a few minutes on the phone. I think it was pretty obvious that I was like, wow, what a life and what an attitude. So we're excited to have you on.
The best way Eddie
you.
described you to me was
Yep.
she's an elderly lady, but sounds like she's got the energy of a 40-year-old.
Yeah. Totally. Like you're in the prime of your life. That's the
Well,
vibe I got from
I'm fitter now. I'm fitter now than I was at 37.
Wow. What do you put that down to?
Determination.
Yeah, it's a lot of different medications, and I've had a lung operation, cut out the dead part of my lung, which was taken out at 52 years of age, and it should have been taken out at 7.
Oh.
So once that got out and got rid of all the poison over 2 years that was in my body, I'm really feeling...
So you're feeling full of life and...
Yeah,
Ready to take over the world.
74 years
Alright,
young.
so let's go all the way back to the beginning when you were however old you were and you felt like you really could take over the world, and, you know, like all kids and teenagers, they, you know, got all these dreams and hopes and aspirations. Tell us about you.
What, from the start?
Yep, why not?
Okay. Well, I was born just like any other baby.
Yep.
And then at 10 months of age, I was bitten by a toxic mosquito down the southeast of South Australia. And they thought I was a polio victim. So they treated me like a polio victim.
Did they not know at the time that you were
No,
bitten by
this
a
is
mosquito?
1950. So country doctors, you didn't know much. It was down in Millicent.
Wow.
So then when I was dying, they decided to rush me to Adelaide. And the airplane was met by a ambulance to take me to the hospital. And I was laid, I think they still thought I had polio. And they laid me on a frame on my back, and I was strapped in with bandages from around 1 year of age up until 3. And so I was sort of on my back and legs are slightly apart, bandaged in. My arms were up like this, all bandaged in. A frame. And
Wow. Till
and-
about 3.
to 3. And then I think they realised that, no, it wasn't polio. And so
Do you remember being like,
I remember being on the frame. I remember Father Christmas coming to visit me at home and wishing me a Merry Christmas and leaning over me.
it's amazing what, like, you know, I'm 46. There's not too much I remember of my childhood.
Really?
But the one surgery I had when I was 8, I remember the entire process from day one
Wow.
right until I was out of hospital. But that's all I remember.
My gosh.
Yeah. So it's weird how we remember things, isn't it?
It's weird. Because I was 2 with Father Christmas and I was 3 when I started walking.
Wow.
So I remember that day distinctly.
Pleasant memory?
Oh yeah, it was great.
Santa.
The
You're
look
still
on Mother's...
real. You're still real at that point.
It is, yeah. It's great, you know. And it was around that time that my parents said, right, you're old enough now for us to tell you to dream the biggest and the wildest dreams, and you believe in them. And
How
they
old were
let
you when
me...
your parents are saying this to you?
It must have been around 4, you know, when you start to sort of...
Become very
Start-
curious about the world.
Yeah, and I had all my dreams, and over the years I've had dreams, and every dream that came true we celebrated, and every dream that didn't come true, they sat me down and they said, okay, so you tried, you had a go, and now you know. So, what's your next dream? Let's think about what else you're going to go on with. And I was happy with that.
That's a powerful impression to place on a loved one, isn't it? That feeling of like,
Absolutely.
life is life and shit happens, but let's not talk about the ceilings. Let's
Absolutely.
look at what we can do together as a
And
family.
it is what we can do. It's not what we can't do, it's what we can do. And so, yes, I had all those dreams and they did come true. Met Paul McCartney twice. And, and I wanted to go overseas by myself to prove to everybody else I could do it. And I got on the plane and realised, I can't do this. So I cried all the way to Sydney, but I pulled myself together and got on the ship. So that was all right.
And then did you end up going overseas?
Yes, 7 months by myself.
Oh wow! But it was quite emotional getting over there.
From Adelaide to Sydney, I was an absolute mess.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
it was all good.
How old were you when they found out it was a mosquito bite?
I'm not sure, Damo. It's a curious one, that.
Or is it just one of those things they just decided one day that that's what it was because it's not polio?
The first time I found out
Yep.
was because I knew people that had polio and they were different to me. And so I asked a nurse when I was in hospital having one of my operations, and I said to a young nurse, wanted to sound like she knew everything, so I asked her, I said, what do these words mean? And she told me all about it. It was encephalitis, which I can say now, I couldn't remember in those days, and that it's like a stroke down your right side, and that's why your hand doesn't work and your leg partly works, and you had bronchial pneumonia, which means that you end up with bronchiectasis, which is the disease. And 4 years of age, I had my first low bout, and they thought that they had it all. And then, well, I said about 52, I had the second one out. Wow. So it's all, and now I'm ready to go.
Yeah, cool.
I went with the mother and dad's. What they taught me was great because I got married and we had a son, and when he was 6 years of age, he got Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Okay.
I don't know whether you know that or not, but he gradually there's a quick one and a slow one, but he had the slow one, so over days his body shut down.
Yep.
And he ended up being paralysed from the neck down.
Wow.
From the neck.
And but on the way, I knew how to handle it, and so Graham and I handled it the way my parents handled me, and that was, gee Lee, your hand doesn't work. You're just trying to keep up with me, and we laughed. 2 hands don't work. Okay, you're winning. 4 limbs don't work. You've won. You're out.
Yeah.
And we laughed all the way through, which is...
Well, you're either going to laugh or cry, aren't you?
Well, the thing is that Graham and I knew it was our responsibility to keep him happy. And that's what it was. Even when I went into the doctor, I was called into the doctor, we did a 24/7 bedside with him, and the doctor called me in and said, look, he's now got pneumonia on his right lung and he could die within 24 hours.
Yep.
So I walked...
How did he get it? Do you know how he developed it?
It's very, very rare.
Just one of them things.
Yep, and no answer, I don't think even now. Yeah, so I walked outside the door and the door shut behind me, and the dread that goes through you. And then I thought, right, this isn't about me, it's about him. So I took a deep breath, and I don't know to this day how I did it. You know, you love the child, it's your child.
Yep.
To walk back in and say, hi Lee, here I am, I'm back.
And what state is he in at that point physically?
He,
Losing function in his body?
his whole body, I've got a photo of him smiling, a huge smile on his face, and there he is with his hands and legs not working. He
Just
couldn't
found
eat.
out the news from the doctors that
Yeah.
how difficult it was.
He was on the verge of not even being able to drink, and he was only whispering.
Wow.
And then what happened was, well, you can take it whether it was a miracle or a shot of positivity. I don't know. Well, I do know, but
Tibby is reshaping disability supports by using the human rights model. We believe in delivering support with you, not just for you. Join Tibby, where everyone's unique humanity is valued and supported. Contact Tibby for all your disability support services and click the link to find out how we can make a difference together.
well, I do know, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it to everybody else to think about.
Yeah.
But what happened was, he asked he could hear a choir, and he asked me if the choir could come in and sing to him. And I said, yes, I'm sure they can. The doctor said, Mrs. Cox, this is intensive care. You can't have music in here.
Yeah.
Anyway, then I asked if one could come in and sing quietly. And then basically what happened after that was the doctor saw him beaming and let everybody in. Shortly after that, he whispered, Mummy, look. It was about 10 minutes, 15 at the most. Mummy, look. And I looked at him and he was looking at his fingers and they were moving. Wow. By the next morning, he was thrown out of intensive care for making too much noise.
Man. How old is he at this point?
He was 6 then.
6 years old when this all happened.
When that happened.
Whoa.
Then he had chronic fatigue, a throwback, when he was, how old was he? He was 15. And
So just to go back, he's 6 years old. This
Yes.
has happened to him. He can't move any. His only function is really his face.
yes,
And then the next day, under some sort of miraculous event,
he had
he's had this
wormed
beautiful,
his-
joyful moment
Yeah.
with this choir, and you just heard the news from the doctors. It's looking really bad, and the next day he's got his function back. And the doctors couldn't explain why.
no,
Is that right?
no, that's right. They were coming to put him on the respirator that day, and he'd wormed his way down to the end of the bed. It took a few days for him, and then it was Christmas Eve. 1991, Christmas Eve. There we are, 5 o'clock, not knowing whether he was going to spend Christmas in hospital or not. And he got the okay to go out. The blood test came back. It was going. And he was like a little drunk man walking out with a blue helium balloon, and I've still got that in my mind.
Wow.
So I understand this on both sides. I understand disability from both sides.
Actually, I'm not being rude. I'm trying to find a photo
Yes.
that I can show you on my phone, because you and I have actually travelled a very similar path, which I don't have. But anyway, when my youngest was 6 months old, he contracted pneumococcal meningitis,
Oh my gosh.
which is an infection of the meninges around the fluid that's between the skull and the brain.
Yeah.
His whole frontal lobe of his brain was covered in 27 separate pus pockets. It got to the point where the hospital chaplain actually came in to give him his last rites. That's very similar to your story, where they had no idea what to do. They didn't know anything, and as you said when you walked out the room, I remember that we had to walk out the room because at the beginning we had to wear gowns and face masks and all sorts, because they didn't know what he had. So every time we walked out the room and spoke to a doctor, we just burst into tears. And even though he was only 6 months old, we had to gather ourselves and put a
Absolutely.
smile on our face and
Yeah.
go back in and come on mate, what are we doing today? And then 1 minute he's sitting up in bed, he had this big bandage around his head, and 5 minutes later he's laying down screaming his lungs out, and because he had photophobia as well from meningitis causes what's called photophobia,
Right.
which is where you can't handle any lights on at all. It's like the worst type of migraine ever.
You're just in the dark.
So we were sitting in darkness for 3 weeks. He ended up being in a hospital for 7. Ended up losing hearing completely in his left ear and about a quarter in his right ear.
Wow.
But you meet him now and he'll have you in stitches in 5 seconds. He's just the best kid ever.
How old is he?
He's 10. He'll be 11 in July.
Wow.
You know, smartest. He can read and write with the best of them. He's a better speller than I am. You know, I think I'm a pretty good, you know, grammar Nazi, and he just beats me. So yeah, when you were telling your story, it really, you know, not trying to make it sound bad, but it hits that nerve, and I'm sort of sitting there like, yep, I'm good.
Yeah.
You know, even now when my wife and I talk to, you know, professionals about it, it's really hard not to tear up about it and, you know, get emotional because they're our kids.
That's right.
You know, we you know, we take a bullet for our kid.
And it's our responsibility.
It's our job to protect them.
To protect them from being sad in situations that we can need to encourage them.
And thankfully, he was a baby. He doesn't know any different, but we do. And, you know, we know the bullshit he had to go through, basically.
Lee just remembers having fun. He remembers, he said, I got a bit bored.
What's his name?
Lee.
Lee.
L-E-E.
Yeah, my son's Lucas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh.
So yeah, it's just, yeah, not something I ever want to have to do again, that's for sure.
No, I don't. I think twice now. We don't want a third one with Leo.
No.
But yeah, so he's going really well now. He's 37, a bit older than your boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you were saying about your son, and then he came into some health issues a bit later on as well.
Chronic fatigue. And this is another part of what parents sometimes go through, is that we were told by the doctor, take him out of school. He's too sick. He's got severe chronic fatigue.
At what age?
15.
Yeah.
And basically just let him do what he wants because he's too sick to get into trouble. So we just said, you can play the computer. And he said, you're serious? I said, yeah, you can just play the computer. You can do it all day. When you're awake, you're going to sleep a lot, but when you're awake, you can play with your computer.
Yeah.
And then he got bored with that. And he said, oh, I'm going to see how it's made. So he found a free tutorials on how to do animation. But what happened, he's got business now in animation because he taught himself on that time, that 2 years. But what the trouble I had, Graham was at work, the trouble I had was with relatives accusing me of not letting him have his education. And I said, well, I'm taking doctors' advice. Doctors wouldn't advise you. You're just making that up because you had a good time at school. You didn't learn anything at school. So, you know, you're doing this to your son.
Some big assumptions.
So, you know, parents sometimes have to cope with the people around them.
Nobody knows more about your child than what you do, though.
Yeah.
So it's not up to anyone else.
Especially as a mother, like the bond between birthing a child.
Absolutely.
It's something as men, like we just can't comprehend the mother connection to her kids. I see it in my mum, these moments where she just sort of like, you know, like she has 4 boys. She knows, you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
she carried us around for like 8 months. It's about 8 months, right?
9 months.
9 months, yeah. So it's like 9 months.
My wife's the
carrying you around.
same.
It's like,
Like I've got 3 kids with my wife, and you know we all love our kids equally, but because of what the youngest one went through, you just have that little bit extra of a protective coating.
You do, but I think parents struggle with that.
Oh, we do, absolutely.
But I have been talking, well, not talking personally, but I've been in touch with Siblings Australia. For a personal reason, from my experience, that I don't want to talk about or I can't talk about.
No, yeah.
But the children of, the siblings of children with disabilities have a really difficult time.
that's a really interesting topic. So how many kids do you have total?
We only got one,
You got 1, yeah.
but my experience as a child was of more had a sibling.
Yeah.
So
Those kids develop differently seeing their siblings.
Beyond Plan Managers help make your NDIS journey simple. With Beyond Plan Managers, you can experience personal, quick support from a dedicated team. No big call centers, no hassles. Beyond Plan Managers will handle the admin so you can focus on what's important. If you're looking for a seamless NDIS experience, click the link in the description and choose Beyond Plan Managers.
Siblings potentially get more attention or have more health issues or what?
Even
anxiety
though
can
the
cause?
parents try,
Yeah.
there are things that are different than that they see other families
Absolutely.
going through.
And my daughter, she's almost 17, you know, she's working, she's almost got her P's, she's still studying at school, but she's got 2 disabled parents, 2 disabled brothers, because her other brother's autistic and ADHD as well, and she's the only quote-unquote normal, you know, so she absolutely has her struggles as well.
Yeah.
But we just hope it turns her into the most amazing adult because she will understand so much about life.
At least you're aware of it.
Or it'll go the other way and she'll hate us forever.
My experience is
She hates me anyway.
the other way. So my experience is the other way. So even at 17, I think Sibling Australia could help her.
Yeah.
I'd suggest that you really...
Yeah, I've run into them at a few expos before, so yeah.
Lovely lady, I think.
Okay.
Yep. So that's where I'm coming from. I can see it from both sides.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
song, I can't sing for the life of me, so I won't sing it. But
And how is your son now? We were talking about him.
he is
15.
great at the moment. He had
He still
a
has chronic
relationship.
fatigue?
No, he got rid of it in 2 years.
Do you know, once again, do you know why? How?
I know
Years?
why he got rid of it,
Yeah.
and that's because Graham and I took the responsibility of doing exactly what the doctor told us to do, is to take all responsibility off of him
Yeah.
and all stress off of him.
Yeah.
No stress at all.
And he just recovered?
And he gradually recovered, and he was going through to this free site, and they were having competitions between them who could do the best animation.
Yeah.
So they were actually teaching themselves, but they were having this competition, and the guy that actually did put that up there free for everybody was watching, and he came through in an email to Lee and said, can you come to San Diego? We're having a conference on 3D animation. I want to meet you and meet the 3D group. So he comes out, and he was getting better, so he was, you know, nearly 17. And he said, oh, this guy, Ton, wants me to go to San Diego to a conference. Can I go? So we went,
These days you immediately think scammers, right? Like, you know,
and we said,
2024, every second email's a scam email.
we said, who is this guy? Go and check him out. Give us his name and we'll check him out.
Of course.
So we did. And he was out of a university in Amsterdam doing all this information for these young people that wanted to be animators. And so we said, right, okay. And Graham had just retired, so we sent him over there. And he then was told by Ton, which is the guy, go back and apply for this movie. It's a short movie that I want to make in Amsterdam. I want 6 of the best in the world. So go back and try. Lee tried. Ton sent him a message saying, you don't want to know how close it is, but you're one of the 6. And he was flown over to Amsterdam free of charge. So we had him
So
home.
you ended up producing in this, like being part of the animation of this
Yeah, he was an
movie?
animator in
Sweet.
this, and it was the first open source animation. I think it was called Elephant Stream.
Okay.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it was
Must be very proud as a parent.
it was frightening because you have your son. You'll appreciate this. You have your son home for 2 years, and you know exactly where he is. He hasn't even been at the shop,
of
never
course.
alone anywhere else. Next minute, you're driving him to the airport to say goodbye to him for him to go clear across the
Yeah,
world.
Or someone he doesn't even hardly know, yeah.
yeah. And you're in a position where your parents didn't put any limitations.
No.
You didn't, so you're like, hey,
Go.
this is hard, but like,
Yep.
go live your life. That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yes, you've got to have them have their dreams.
So it sounds like you've had a bit of a parenting journey as well.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
After you know, I mean, you never really stop being a parent, but you know, once you know your children are old enough to, you know, somewhat look after themselves and get on with their own lives, what have you been doing for you, you know, in the last, you know, 15, 20 years?
Well, before COVID, I was going around to businesses and teaching them how to interact with their people that came in with a disability, their clients.
Yep.
That's the word I was looking for.
Consultancy work, which is, I've dabbled in a bit of that myself
Yes.
recently, so.
Yes. So when COVID hit, because of my lung, I had to stop everything. And so last year I decided I wanted to do something else. And I've been having these meetings with he used to be a paediatrician.
Yep.
And so I've been having these meetings with him and paid meetings, and he's been teaching me and showing me a direction. And the direction I'm in now is that I've got a HOPE program that I'm launching soon. I'm on the verge. I've just got a couple more things to sort out, but I'm sort of advertising it now, which is a bit cheeky, but
Love it. That's what we're here to do.
well, this is it. Yeah. And so the HOPE is a program. It's got 4 modules to it.
And we'll have the link in the episode description.
We'll add your link in our
Thank you.
description for the
And that'll
video.
go through to explain everything about it. And so I'll be I'll be calling myself a family disability coach.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'll be referring them on to people if they, but just to, I mean, NDIS, and they're caring about the children. But I want to do a one-on-one. I don't want to do classes. I don't want to do forums or anything like that. I just want to sit down with the parents one-on-one and see where they're at. The other thing is that's very important for them is for the parents to have date nights. I'm hoping you have date nights.
Yeah.
You do, good. Because this is so valuable, and it's valuable to the children. The parents don't realise how important it is for the children and their own relationship.
You know, I think about young parents, whether they, you know, their kids have a disability or not, but even just having young kids, your world can become pretty hectic, busy, and maybe even small, because you're so busy just meeting all the needs of a kid or kids. You put on top of that, you know, disability, and
Yes.
parents are swamped. I know in my sport coordination, the NDIS role, a few of the parents I work with, I was just like, holy smoke, you people are amazing. I don't know how you're even functioning. Like,
I just call it.
they just have so much going on.
I just put it down to organised chaos.
Organised chaos. Yeah, there's a lot you have to let slide, right? It's just to get on with.
My wife and I actually argue about that all the time. We're always throwing that pick your battle, you know, pick your battle line at each other, you know, because sometimes one of my kids might do something and they'll be like, blah, 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 and she'll go, sorry, let her go, you know, pick your battles. But then 5 minutes later, I'm telling her the same thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're better off just letting kids be kids. And at the end of the day, as long as they know they have to clean up whatever
That's
mess
right.
they've made, that's all that matters.
But there's parents out there, and there's children with disabilities out there that don't know what they don't know.
No.
And I'll tell you a story, if I may,
Please.
about a little girl. I call her Mia. And Mia was 8 years old when I met her, and I was invited over to her place. Her brother went to school with Lee. And I went over and had afternoon tea with her and her parents. And Mia sat quietly, just listening to me talk. You know, you're just talking about over a cup of parents talking. When I spoke to her, she was very shy. But after I went home, I got a telephone call from her mum. And this little girl, Mia, had a hand that didn't work like mine, and a leg that only partly worked the same.
It would be interesting for her as a child, meeting you and seeing you. And
Absolutely.
is this somebody like me, maybe?
That's right. And so when I got home, I got a telephone call from the mum, and she said, Mia's running around the house saying, I can get married, I can have a baby, I can drive a car when I grow up. Wow. You know, this is
Because she
it.
just took
That's
one look at
huge.
you and
Yeah,
realised she can do everything you're doing.
So she was sitting there absorbing everything you were saying. and watching you.
absolutely, absolutely every minute.
Wow.
Now, the other thing is too that when I was up in Cairns, I met a guy that had cerebral palsy, severe cerebral palsy. I don't know whether it's, you might know that, Damo, 4 to 6 nurses looking after him. And I don't know whether you know because you're in the NDIS. I
There's a
think
few
it's
categories.
4 or 6.
There's a few different categories of cerebral palsy. I
Yeah,
think. Like when
he
they
was-
assess them, there's a few different
Yeah,
severities.
he had to
or
be fed
differences. Yep.
with a straw.
Okay.
And so anyway, I had to go into his room. I was basically in the next room to him at a share house. It wasn't for disabled people. It was all people from all over the world, young people, and we just happened to be in the same one. And I walked into his room, knocked on the door, walked into his room with a letter that I was going to give him from the office. And there he was on the computer. And he had sticks, 2 sticks in both hands, like they came to a point. And he was working his computer. I said, oh, I said, having a go at the computer. He said, this is my work. I said, oh, you work? And he said, yes. He said, I design websites for people through the computer.
Wow.
And he said, look, one of my nurses is leaving. He said, can you, do you know of a nurse? And I said, well, yes, I could ask around and see. And he said, and I said, well, who do they contact? He looked at me and he went, me? I hire, I fire,
That's
and I need somebody to go to New Zealand when I go. I need people to go to New Zealand with me when I go to New Zealand.
Was he going on holidays or work? You
No,
don't
he's
know?
got family over in New Zealand. He flies backwards and forwards.
And he needs staff. And he's
Completely independent. That's what the future can be
yeah,
for so many children.
yeah.
But they've got to have a dream in the path that they are good at. If they're in designing artwork or mathematics, whatever it is,
Because
that's
you've talked a lot about this as well, about being like, just because you live with a disability, it doesn't define
no.
who you are and your limitations.
I've never-
Like you've run amok, like every teenager.
Yeah, I've never.
You know.
When I was late teen, early 20, I was doing the clubs and pubs and doing things I shouldn't be doing, and I'm still here to tell the story, so I couldn't have done it too bad. But even now, just getting around, unless it's absolutely bucketing down with rain, I'll catch public transport
Yeah.
to get to where I have to go. I've never really been in a position where I've feared for my life. I've never had someone mug me. I've never had anyone even really, front up to me for anything when I've been on my own.
You've threatened to push me out in front of traffic, though.
Yeah, but that's me pushing you.
True.
I'd say you tripped over my wheel and they'd believe me.
I was with my cousin, and we were in the city, and we thought silly, but we thought we'd go down a side street to get to the next street that we wanted to get to go to the coffee lounge. And 2 drunk guys came up to us. Now, at 52, I was advised after my lung operation to do karate.
Yeah.
And I went, that's ridiculous. I just belly laughed. I thought it was so stupid. Anyway, it came in handy, and I did it. I'm a green belt in karate.
Nice.
But they came up and they said, come on, give us a hug, love,
Yeah.
And I pushed one to the ground. I caught him off guard, knew exactly how to do it, pushed him to the ground.
Yeah.
And then I just looked at the other one and I said, do you want the same? And they both laughed, and then they took off and left us alone.
Yeah. Well, that's good.
So it came in handy. That's the only thing I've ever had.
Can't say I've done karate, but I guess I could talk my way out of a wet paper bag, so, yeah, I've done okay, and I've never really stopped anything from stopping me from doing what I want to do.
No. We don't. It's just,
Well, if we do, then we've let it beat us, haven't we?
well, that's right. It's
And
our problem.
Once we're beaten,
Yeah.
what use are we?
But obviously you've had good parents as well.
Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
I had because I was put in a foster family when I was 6 months old, and that probably the most amazing person I could ever have been with.
Wow.
You know, by the time she stopped fostering, probably 3 years before she passed away. BHA is redefining disability supports with a focus on human rights. BHA is committed to providing education and accreditation by using our lived experience to enhance the lives of people with disabilities through a human rights-based approach. Our team of dedicated practitioners aims to transform the sector by elevating human rights as a benchmark. So join BHA in creating a world where everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Click the link to learn more about our mission and how you can be a part of it. And in that time, through Families SA and Anglicare, she fostered over 600 kids.
Oh my gosh.
She's actually in the state archives as well for all the work she did.
Isn't it wonderful?
I still see my biological parents, I always have. It was just circumstances when I was born. They were out in the country. You know, it is what it is, really. But who I am today, I solely credit that to my foster mum.
That's
Like just
terrific.
my outlook, my attitude, I don't know, every ounce of who I am is solely because of her.
Was there ever moments for her where she opened up your way of thinking as your
Every day.
mum, and she would challenge you, or she would not put limits on you, or
Dude, she challenged me the day she put me into mainstream school.
was there a party that was freaking out going mainstream?
I didn't know any different.
So she sort of said that.
Because I knew that I had a brain that worked. Even at a really young age, I had the ability to talk.
She wanted you in mainstream school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because mentally there's nothing wrong with me. I literally just can't do anything with my arms.
Did you do well at school?
Yeah, I finished year 12. I went all the way through. I'm not talking 99%, school grades in year 12, but I did well enough to get to where I wanted to do,
I was the opposite. I was a brat.
Okay.
I was a pain in the ass, if you ask anybody. I was a complete pain in the ass. And I'm sure everyone is shocked by me saying that. But I just did what I had to do. And I never looked at it as anything different. I was just another high school kid, doing what high school kids do.
The day I arrived at school, I didn't know it, but the teacher, I just thought I was a normal kid. And that's the way I'd been brought up. But then the teacher was treating me differently. And unbeknownst to me, she'd been told that she had a child come in, that her hand didn't work, that had a caliper on her leg, had a...
Do you slow or something? Was she doing
No.
Because that's one of the cliches, isn't it?
No,
Hello, how are you?
I've had that before, and I'm like, I'm fine. What's wrong with you?
no, I just learned...
Drug.
I just learned very quickly that I could manipulate the situation.
Yeah.
And I didn't like school.
Okay.
So you milked it for all it was worth.
I milked it for all it was worth. My grade 3 teacher was a wake-up. And so I thought, I had the brain, how do I get around this? Because I don't like school. And then I found out that I had a sore throat. I made out I had a sore throat because I hadn't done my homework. Ended up at the doctor's, and the doctor agreed with Mother that I had an ulcerated throat because I got little white spots down there that must have happened when I was a baby. And and so any time that I wanted to get off school, I said I had a sore throat, because when I was better, which was from day one, whenever I felt like being better, they didn't look down my throat.
Yeah, you
So I had that.
figured out a loophole.
Yeah, that was one.
Yeah.
The other one was there was a girl that fainted at school. I thought, wow, she got out of school, because I loved attention. I wanted the
So
attention.
what, you'd fall down on the ground and...
I just fainted, made out to faint.
I couldn't pretend to faint. I'd lay there with a smile on my face. That's just me. I'd be like, ugh.
Do you just not want to be at school?
No, I didn't want to be at school.
Yeah.
And I found out when I was 45 years of age that I was only 8 years of age reading level. So I learnt to read at 45.
Well, my 10-year-old boy is at 15, reading, like 15 years old reading level.
Fantastic.
Just because, you know, with his deafness and stuff, we've
Yeah.
just worked on his speech
Yeah.
therapy since he was 1.
Yes.
And he's just learnt to read, and just incredible. And speaking of school, like, I love school. Like, looking back on it now, I loved school. More for the social aspect of it. But, you know, my daughter's in year 12 next year, and I keep joking with her and pulling a prank and telling her that I want to go back to school next year and do year 12 again, just so I can be in all her classes. And yeah,
Fake an application letter to your
You can
house.
you can
with your
imagine
name.
that.
Damien put it, you've been accepted. into
Care of
university.
Paralawi High School.
exactly.
You've been accepted to rejoin as an adult re-entry.
That's right. That'd be
God,
funny,
I think she would just put a fry pan over my head.
yeah,
Really
that'd be
hard,
so
just
good.
dong.
But the look on her face would be worth it.
God, priceless.
Yeah, I think schools are hopefully a lot more wake up and that. And,
But-
but when I was 15, I had an assessment done whether I should go on to school or not. My parents were advised to have that. And the guy, after testing me, sat down and talked to my parents if I wasn't even there and said, she's disabled. She'll never be anything in her life. Just take her out of school and put her in a rehab and see what they can do with her.
Wow.
And I stood up and I said to him, you have no idea what you're talking about. And my parents didn't say anything because, you know,
And they knew that
They
you
knew.
you were probably rigging the test as much as you could to not do it. And you don't have to prove to anyone how smart or, I hate the word dumb, but you know, how smart or dumb you are.
Yeah.
You know what you know.
absolutely.
And, you know, like Eddie asked me about my challenges, not once at school did I ever feel like I was different or expected to be treated differently. I was just another one of the school kids. And, you know, if we had, you know, assignments due,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, I got told, you know, look, Damien, if you need extra time, just ask, but make sure you ask before the due date. But very rarely did I have to ask for extra
Wow.
time, you know.
So you were intelligent and I wasn't. I was just a brat.
I could have been a brat. I'm more of a brat now than I was back then. So yeah, no, no. It was just, yeah, but I credit everything I have to my foster mum.
Yeah.
I mean, that might upset my biological parents, but it is what it is. It's just the way it is, really.
Gosh.
And the Hope program.
Yes.
So the Hope program that you started is about supporting the parents
The parents.
of
Yes.
people with a disability.
Yes. I
Is
just
that
want to.
starting with. Is that just mainly a one-on-one mentor program?
It's a
for you, or
one-on-one
is it-
mentor. The first
Because
meeting.
there is such a need out there.
The first meeting is going to be free.
Yeah.
Half an hour or whatever it takes. I don't mind. But it'll be free so that they can get to know me, understand what it's all about, and I can get to know them and understand what's going on in the family. And then I'll be paying per hour, but it'll be in their time limit. I won't be saying, right, this Wednesday, next Wednesday, blah, blah, blah.
Sure.
Because people can't do that financially. They just can't do it. It's
Not
just,
especially in this day and age.
yeah. So it'll be in their timeline, and there'll be up to 10 if they choose it. And then whenever it stops, I will be in touch with them free of charge for the next 9 months.
Oh, wow.
To, you know, once a month, just to, or more if they want.
I think in regards to parenting, you know, please tell me if I'm wrong, but I would have to say there is a very, very high rate of parents that go to bed every night still questioning of what they've done that day or how they've spoken to their child or the decisions they've made or rules they've set or rules they've allowed their kids to break. You know, my wife and I go to bed most nights going, are we ever going to perfect this thing called parenting?
Is that even harder for mums, you think?
Shit, yes, absolutely.
I've heard that.
Mums carry the weight of everything, whereas dads, like, it bothers me
Yeah,
as a
of course,
parent
of
sometimes,
course.
you know, like, oh, far out, you know, I shouldn't have said what I said, or, you know, maybe that punishment was a bit too, you know, heavy-handed, you know, and we do go to bed, you know, like, babe, was that okay? Like, or was I just being a drama queen and a bit over the top? You know, and I think that's how I deal with it. Whereas mums especially, and especially mums that haven't had a good relationship with their own mother, like my wife and her mum. You know, next question, please. You know, they don't get along at all, and my wife struggles a lot with how her and my daughter, they get along or they don't, and when they do get along, it's amazing. But when they don't, it's like mushroom cloud over Salisbury. You know, my wife, she knows what she needs to be good at. She knows where she needs to improve, and she tried her whole parenting life to not make those same mistakes. But every now and then, as you know, they creep in, and you know, you say something, you're like, God, I sound like my dad right now.
Yep, you can hear your parents talking, and you're going, oh, okay.
You know, and but with her, she carries the weight of the world, especially when she feels like she stuffs up and gets it wrong. I'm like, babe, there are no coaches. I mean, I know you could say you're a parenting coach, but there are no coaches that tell us how to do this.
And you can read books, but then that's just
Books
not...
are books. It's those spur of the moment things where something happens and you just don't know how to react. And that's what she struggles with. That's what she struggles with the most. So, yeah.
Wise man, Dave.
You'll learn it one day.
It could happen.
So how old are your children?
I got no kids.
Oh, okay.
So he's just sitting here right now nodding and smiling.
I'm just having fun being an uncle, and everyone thinking I'm hilarious who's under the age of 3. So.
You know, and like I said, I grew up in a foster home, and I saw kids come in and out of that place that you can't even imagine the horrors that they'd been through. Like, we had some kids there just overnight. We had some kids stay for 5 years. We had some kids that would get dropped off at 2 in the morning by the police, you know, because their parents had been picked up because they're fighting or drugs or alcohol or whatever, you know, and 9 times out of 10, whether they were there for a day or 5 years, these kids never wanted to leave because they woke up, they got a warm breakfast, a warm lunch, nice dinner, and a warm bed. And most of those kids didn't have that. And they never wanted to leave. But of course, you can't have 600 kids in one house.
I think we're coming up on time, man.
We are. I just feel like there's so much we haven't spoken about.
So much, and I'm deeply fascinated by your psyche, Jan, that you're just such an optimistic and positive person who's not deeply traumatized, but you're actually able to, I guess, have seen the world through the lens of hope and to be able to...
Unlock a seamless NDIS experience with Plan Partners. Say goodbye to paperwork hassles and hello to quick reimbursements and exclusive benefits. Our app and online dashboard make managing your NDIS funds easy, ensuring you maximize every dollar for the supports you need. Choose Plan Partners for expert advice, simplified fund management, and a focus on your goals. Click the link in the description to get started.
Hope and to be able to then offer that support to people. I think we'll wrap it up there, my man, hey?
Yeah, I think
I
we
have
might.
one last question.
We
But
might have to do a part 2.
I think we have to, man.
Would you?
I love that.
You'd like to come back for part 2? 'Cause
Absolutely.
I feel like you and I share the same rose-coloured glasses in certain aspects. I don't mean rose-coloured as in ignorance, but just we've seen life through the same glasses.
Yes, we have.
Definitely.
For sure.
I'd love to do a part 2. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
absolutely.
Jan, wishing you all the best with your services and future aspirations. You're not
Thank
retired
you.
at all. You're still out there helping people. People can just go to your website at ahopeprogram.au
Yes.
to reach out to you directly.
And
Yes.
if anyone out there wants to learn more, go buy Jan's book.
Yeah.
What was your book called again?
It's Thanks Mosquito for the Great Ride.
That is an amazing name.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Jan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jan. It's been
Damo
awesome.
And Eddie.
Wait
Thank
for
you.
part 2.
Yeah, 100%.
Yep, awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. That
And
absolutely
cut.
flew